Hello everyone, myself Jaya Agarwal, Assistant Professor Political Science from SPCGCA Ajmer. I welcome you all in this video. Today we are going to study about the emergency powers of the Indian President or emergency provisions of the Constitution of India. If the examiner asks about the emergency powers of the President of India or the emergency provisions mentioned in Constitution of India, so the answer will remain the same. And so let's start. The Constitution of India has given extraordinary powers to the President to deal with three types of emergencies arising out of war or external aggression or armed rebellion, breakdown of constitutional machinery in a state, threat to the financial stability or credit of India or any part thereof. So basically there are three types of emergency powers or provisions. First one is Article 352, next one is Article 356 regarding breakdown of constitutional machinery in a state, and last one is Article 360 financial emergency, uh, which is regarding threat to the financial stability or credit of India or any part thereof. So, in this video, we are going to study about the Article 352 in detail. So, let's understand. General emergency caused by war or aggression or armed rebellion, that is Article 352. This type of emergency can be declared if the President is satisfied that a grave emergency exists whereby the security of India or any part is threatened or is likely to be threatened either by a war or external aggression or armed rebellion. It is to be noted that the President can issue such a proclamation even before actual occurrence of war, external aggression, or armed rebellion if the President is satisfied that there is imminent danger thereof. Under an amendment carried out in 1978, 44th Amendment was there, and the President can issue such a proclamation only if the Council of Ministers recommends in writing to do so. It may be noted that now the President can declare national emergency only with the concurrence of the cabinet and not merely on advice of the Prime Minister. Before the enactment of the 44th Amendment, the President could also declare emergency in the grounds of internal disturbances, but the above amendment inserted words armed rebellion in place of internal disturbances. Here we would like to mention the 59th Amendment to the Indian Constitution, which carried out in March 1958, once again authorized the President to declare emergency in Punjab on the grounds of internal disturbances. However, such a proclamation of emergency has to be led before each house of the parliament within 1 month. After the lapse of 1 month, the proclamation ceases to operate unless approved by both the houses of parliament. But if the proclamation is issued at a time when the Lok Sabha has been dissolved, or dissolution takes place within 1 month, the emergency is to be approved, dissolved, or by the Rajya Sabha within 1 month, or by the newly elected Lok Sabha within 30 days of its first sitting. It must be noted that the approval of Lok Sabha within 30 days is obligatory only if the proclamation is approved by the Rajya Sabha within 1 month. In case the Rajya Sabha does not approve it, the proclamation ceases to be valid. Once approved by the Parliament, the proclamation of emergency remains in force for a period of 6 months from the date of the passing of the resolution. The emergency can be extended beyond the period of 6 months by the Parliament through a resolution passed by special majority. It is noteworthy that one-tenth members of the Lok Sabha can move a resolution for disapproving the continuance of the proclamation of emergency. They have to give necessary notice in this regard to the Speaker if the House is in session and to the President if the House is not in session. Once such a notice is presented, a special sitting of the Lok Sabha is held within 14 days from the date on which such a notice is received by the Speaker or President for the consideration of the resolution. Thus, it is not the discretion of the government to convene or not to convene a session of the Lok Sabha to consider whether continuance of emergency is necessary or not. Further, the continuance of emergency does not depend upon the discretion of the executive. The final power in this regard rests with the parliament, which takes decision by a special majority of its members. Under Article 352, the President can make a proclamation of emergency either in respect of the whole of India or of such part of the territory thereof as may be specified. This provision was added by the 42nd Amendment. Earlier, the proclamation of emergency by the President was applicable to the whole of the country. As a result of this change, now it is possible for the President to lift emergency from any part of the country once the situation becomes normal and continue it in other parts of the country. National emergency has been declared thrice so far. The first national emergency was declared in October 1962 following an attack on our country by China. The emergency lasted till January 1968 and enabled the government to tide over the difficult situation arising out of the Indo-Pak War of 1965. The second national emergency was declared in December 1971 in the wake of war with Pakistan and was lifted in 1977. The third national emergency was declared in June 1975 in the face of mounting internal disturbances and continued to operate till 1977. Now we will study the effects of general emergency, how the provisions of our constitution or how our regular system of our country or the government or political system changes during the period of national emergency, during the duration of national emergency. So the declaration of national emergency has far reaching constitutional effects. First one is, while the proclamation is in operation, the parliament assumes powers to make laws for the entire country or any part thereof, even in respect of subjects mentioned in the state list over which the state legislative under normal times enjoys exclusive jurisdiction. Second one, the President can issue directions to the states as to the manner in which executive power is to be exercised. Third one is the President can modify the provisions regarding distribution of revenues between the Union and the states. Any such modification made by the President is subject to Parliament's approval and is valid only for the current financial year. Next one is, during the proclamation, the President can extend the life of Lok Sabha by a year for at a time, but the tenure of the Lok Sabha cannot be extended beyond 6 months after the proclamation ceases to operate. Fifth one is, the proclamation of emergency leads to suspension of certain important fundamental rights granted to the citizens of India by the Constitution. Thus, the right to freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble peacefully, freedom of association, freedom to settle and reside in any part of India, Freedom to acquire, hold, or and dispose of property, etc., are automatically suspended. Sixth one is the president can also suspend the right of the individual to move the courts for the enforcement of any other right guaranteed by the constitution. In a nutshell, this emergency has the effect of suspending that autonomy of states and converting the federal structure into a unit one. The emergency provisions met with severe criticism in the Constituent Assembly, and doubts were expressed by members that the President may misuse these powers. However, Dr. Ambedkar justified these powers. He said that the possibility that the emergency powers may be abused furnishes no ground for denial of emergency powers to the executive. The power of executive is not uh, the power of executive is not unbridled. The Constitution provides certain safeguards against the abuse of emergency powers by the executive. Firstly, the president has to exercise it on the advice of the Council of Ministers, which is representative of the people. Secondly, it has to be led before the parliament and cannot remain in force without its approval beyond 1 month. So that's all for today from my side. Thank you very much.